To say Alexander the Great was rich would be an understatement. He was actually one of the richest people ever, with an inflation-adjusted net worth of $500 billion. Alexander used his prowess on the battlefield to gain power and wealth, and many historians consider him to be the greatest military commander of all time. Let's travel back to 336 BC. That's when Alexander the Great became king of Macedonia. He took power after his father, King Philip II, was assassinated. By this time, Alexander the Great was already extremely wealthy. He inherited military assets and a vast royal fortune, but there was one thing that Alexander the Great inherited that was more valuable than anything else: a stable income. As ruler of Macedonia, Alexander gained access to the empire's mines, which produced ample amounts of gold and silver. The gold mines of Thrace alone produced 1,000 talents per year. That's the equivalent of about $933 million today. Alexander the Great wanted to become king of Asia, but before he could accomplish that lofty goal, he would have to conquer Persia. Success on the battlefield came quickly and often for Alexander. In 333 BC, he handily defeated King Darius III of Persia at the Battle of Issus. By defeating King Darius in Issus and at the Granicus River, Alexander gained a stranglehold on western Persia. But he had his sights on the entire Persian Empire. Being the cunning military tactician that he was, Alexander cut off access to ports along the coast. The Persian fleets never stood a chance. Alexander disbanded his own navy and shifted his focus to the battlefield. It gave him the upper hand and saved him a lot of money, as naval battles were significantly more expensive. Alexander continued his streak of military wins in 332 BC. He conquered Tyre and Egypt and founded the city of Alexandria. If you had a fortune as large as Alexander the Great's, you'd be tempted to name a city after yourself too. Alexander founded at least 13 cities during his conquest and had temples built in his honor. Let's examine Alexander the Great's most successful military campaign. By successful, we mean lucrative. The Battle of Gaugamela marked the end of King Darius III, and when Alexander captured King Darius's throne tent, he acquired 3,000 talents of gold. That's the equivalent of about $2.8 billion today. The fortune that Alexander secured after defeating King Darius was so large that he needed 20,000 mules and 5,000 camels just to carry the former Persian king's treasure. Alexander and his army left a path of destruction throughout Persia and looted numerous palaces along the way. Alexander and his army gained countless treasures from Susa, Persepolis, and Ecbatana. The artwork and paintings were worth a fortune, but it was the gold that made Alexander's net worth skyrocket. You're probably wondering how much Alexander made conquering Persia. Well, in total, his raids netted about 200,000 talents of gold, or about $1.6 trillion. Alexander and his army took home 2,500 tons of gold from Persepolis alone. That's $160 billion. Alexander rewarded his soldiers handsomely. He gave one of his kinsmen a $650 million palace, and if a soldier died in battle, his salary transferred to his family. Think of it as ancient Greek life insurance. After becoming the new king of Persia, Alexander the Great turned his focus to India. If you thought that Alexander's perfect battlefield record would continue, you'd be wrong. Alexander defeated King Porus, but his troops were weary and refused to go further. Alexander had no choice but to turn back and abandon his plans. A disastrous march through the Gedrosian desert caused an unprecedented amount of suffering and death. Alexander soon faced his greatest enemy, Mother Nature. Sandstorms devastated his troops. Alexander lost a sizable portion of his military, some say as much as half. Luckily for Alexander, he still had money coming in. Taxes from conquered cities continued to add to his fortune. Alexander's death sent shockwaves through the kingdom of Macedonia. Unfortunately, he did not name a successor, so his incredible $500 billion fortune was up for grabs. Warring factions fought for control of Alexander's empire, which now spanned from Greece down into Egypt. He did make one final decree, however. He requested that gold, silver, and gemstones be laid along the path to his tomb. That tomb is still undiscovered. Perhaps you'll be the intrepid archaeologist who discovers this lost fortune. That's it, folks. Thanks for watching.